If you feel like you've been in a bit of pain over the last few years because your rents have gone up, I'm here to tell you that the changes that the federal government has made in their budget is not going to help you as a renter. Welcome to the Teach Me About Property podcast. My name is Massey, Archibald. With me today, I've got Felise Kinney-Talakafo. What's up? So for those of you who don't know, Felise Kinney is part of the team here at Teach Me About Property. And so we're pretty excited. So Felise, why don't you just introduce yourself, talk to everyone.
Let's go.
Welcome.
For sure. Appreciate it. So my name's Felise. I work for Teach Me About Property for how long now?
22 you landed?
22?
4 years?
Yeah. But working full-time within TMAP has been 2022. So what has it been, 3-4 years now?
4 years, yeah.
And man, time's gone fast.
Yeah, it has. So let's have a conversation now. So why don't you enlighten me a little bit? You have a lot of conversations with first homeowners,
100%.
With people who are looking to get into the property market. Tell me a bit. What are they saying to you? What's some common conversations?
Well, I think it's good to start here because one of the biggest challenges right now, well, a lot of the pain that we get from first home buyers is a lot around rent.
Okay.
Like rent. Well, like Felise, man, obviously the question is, well, what made you reach out to TMAP? What made you reach out to Teach My Property? Where did the why come from? And the concern today is around rent. Okay. Like, why has rent gone up? My landlords just called me. The real estate, the property managers called me, and they said the rent's going to go up, by $50 to $100 a week.
Yes.
Even around, we have to move. Yeah. Like they've settled down, Massey. You know what I mean? Like families are established in the area, kids are going to schools, and they've been told they've got to move out of the property within 90 days. Like, why has rent gone up so much in the last, I would say, since in the last 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, cool. It's basically since COVID. Since COVID. So what you've got to understand is when COVID kind of hit, all the borders shut. And then when COVID finished, they opened the borders up like bam. So in about the space of 3 years, they've let in about 1.5 million people. Yeah. And apparently those people need somewhere to live.
100%.
Right? So those people got to live somewhere. So you've got a lot more people coming in that need somewhere to live. And at the same time, the amount of construction that's been happening has actually gone down. So there's less properties being built, less new properties, right? Yeah. And so what you've got is way more competition for existing properties and older properties. And there's just not enough. Yeah. And what you got to understand is this is normally when this happens, it happens in like a small area. Yeah. There's an influx of people and there's things, so the prices might go in a small area like say Western Sydney or the Northern Beaches, or it might happen in Southeast Queensland on the Gold Coast in a certain part. Historically, those tight supplies around rent have happened in specific geographic areas for a specific reason, right? But this time, man, it's everywhere. It's everywhere.
100%, yeah.
It is everywhere. There are not enough properties in this country we call Australia. That's why the rents are going up. Yeah. So that's the really simple part of it, right? And so as people continue to compete for properties, the rents just go up and up and up. You see on the news, there's 10, 20, 30 people lined up at an open home.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. It becomes a bidding war.
So many stories. Yeah. And not just that, then the agents, the property managers get really aggressive. They give it to the best people who ends up being their mate anyway, but it bids up the prices.
So on that, where do you think the rental price is going to...
It's going to keep going up. It's going to keep going up. It's going up.
Yeah.
So look, if you feel like you've been in a bit of pain over the last few years because your rents have gone up, I'm here to tell you that the changes that the federal government has made in their budget is not going to help you as a renter. Yeah. It's going to hurt you.
So talk to us about those changes, Massey. What are the recent changes?
Yeah.
So this month, right?
Yeah, so the biggest changes that they're putting in, it's in May. So we're at the end of June now. Yeah, so the 12th of June it come into play. But the biggest changes everything was geared towards investors and making it harder for investors or taking away benefits that investors enjoyed. Yeah. So they changed the capital gains tax. Yeah. If you sell a property, if you buy a property after 12th of May and you sell that property, you'll pay more on capital gains tax. Yeah. That's the simplest way for me to explain it, right? So that's the first one. And then the second one is they've done the capital gains tax, and then they're also getting rid of negative gearing. So if you're an investor and you go out and you buy a property now, you won't get negative gearing benefits on that property unless you buy a new property.
Unless you buy a new property.
That's
the terms and conditions.
That's the terms and conditions. Read them, baby. But what that's actually meant is there's a thing called grandfathering. So if you already own the properties and you're already negative gearing the property, you can still negatively gear it.
Yeah.
So what that means is people, all the property investors I'm speaking to, they're like, why would I sell? So they're not going to sell their properties, right? Because they already get the benefits. So that's the first thing. So there's not going to be this influx of properties coming onto the market.
That's right.
being
That's
sold.
right. Yeah.
No, that's not going to happen. But the other challenge is not only are they not selling them, they're more reluctant in buying. So what's happening right now is investors are sitting on their hands. They're kind of playing a bit of wait and see.
Yep.
And this is evidenced by, the auction clearance rates are, they're below 50. Like they're in the 30s at preliminary rates. And what that means is, for every 3 properties for sale via auction, only 1 is selling.
Wow.
And at the other 2, there's no bids.
No bids at all.
No bids, bro. It's maybe 2 nosy neighbours, their dog, Jan across the road, in her 20 years. I wonder what Bob's going to get for the place. That's it. So what's happened is it has worked in that there's less investors buying properties. That has worked, right? But what people don't understand is the equation. In order for you to have a renter, right, you have to have a landlord.
You have to have, someone owns a property or
someone who owns a property.
Has invested and purchased the property.
Who doesn't live in the property.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? So you have to have an investor in order to have a tenant.
Yeah.
And so if you get rid of all of the investors, well then where do the tenants go?
Yeah, that's right.
So where do the tenants live? Or if there's less houses for rent, what happens to the rental prices? Well, they go up. And we've seen this before. This played out in the 80s, and in a 2-year period, the government got rid of negative gearing, and they got rid of these types of things, and the rents went up by 31% in 2 years.
31% in 2 years?
31%. So if the median rent in Sydney is about $850 for a house, you're going to be paying over $1,100. So if you were complaining about the rent before, buckle up, baby.
Yeah, that's
buckle up.
Extra $300-400 within 2 years.
In 2 years. And where's that coming from? Look, the biggest negatives are the government's got it all wrong. Generally the government wants to raise tax.
Yeah.
But to raise taxes, they have to create a villain. And so the villain in this stage is the landlord. The property millionaire.
Yeah.
He's the bad guy.
Yeah.
He's the reason you don't own a home.
Properties or
it's
they've got equity.
The millionaires. This is the evil,
Yeah.
They're the ones driving the property prices up. And everyone renting is like, it's that guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Bro, he's the person or she is the reason your family has somewhere to live.
That's right.
You've been renting for 20 years.
Yeah.
10 years, 15 years. And what people don't realise is the reason why there's negative gearing is because the property loses money every year.
Yeah.
Imagine someone says to you, Felise, come buy this business.
Yeah.
And you're going to lose money every year. But in 5-10 years, you'll get some money.
You got to make money back, yeah.
People will be like, I don't know if that's a good deal.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. That was the deal. So to incentivize private sector.
They put negative gearing.
They put negative gearing in place. They're like, look, if you're going to buy this property, we know the rent is not enough to cover
the mortgage. We also know that the rent not only does not cover the mortgage, it doesn't cover your rates, it doesn't cover land rates, water rates, it doesn't cover insurance, it doesn't cover property management. You're going to lose money every week. This is the incentive.
Of every month, of every year. Right? That's the government's deal they offered you.
That's a good...
What do you reckon, guys? What do you reckon?
They sold the vision.
Yeah. And they're like, well, okay, what we'll do is we'll offer you these incentives so you will come out and you will buy properties. The numbers are, 30% of Australians rent.
Yeah, wow.
30% of Australians rent. Right? Now, a lot of those 30% have a desire to own a home.
That's right.
But heaps of them don't.
Yeah.
They're like, they don't want to own a home.
Yeah.
It's not on their goal list.
Yep.
You need 3 things to buy a property, guys. Sorry, you need 3 things to buy a property. Cheaper prices with a lower deposit is only one of them. Some people don't have good credit. They can't buy a house.
Yeah.
Even if they wanted to. You look at their credit score, you're like, bro, your credit score's 104.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, is that good? Out of 100? That's 104 out of 1,200, bro. Yeah. I don't know what that mark. I think that's a Z if you were in school, right? Yeah. Not everyone is in a position to own property, right? You have to meet the bank's lending criteria.
Yeah. Well, out of investors, what would you say is that percentage of that are wealthy that doesn't really affect?
So 71% own one property. 71%.
Investors.
71% of investors only own one investment property.
So they own their house of residence?
They may or may not, but in most instances, they probably own their house.
Yep.
And they would have an investment property.
Okay.
That's 71%.
71%.
5 or more is less than 1%. Less than 1%. If you own 5 or more properties, investment properties in Australia, you are in the top 1%.
Top 1%.
It's actually less than 1%. Yeah. So the government's attacking them. But this is what people don't understand, right? We need rental properties because 30% of the Australian population rent their homes.
That's right.
And they need somewhere to live.
Yeah.
And that number is the people who are most vulnerable, right? The people who are struggling the most. A lot of these are new families to Australia. They're trying to get on their feet, or young families, new households.
That's right.
Just being set up. They need somewhere to live, bro.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? And the government's already said, I'm not helping you. Right? And so what people have to understand is property investors are helping the most vulnerable people in Australia, which is renters. Renters are the most sensitive to those increases. 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80, $100 a week.
That's like an instant effect within a household. Like, that's like
people
now.
People move. People change suburbs. I can't afford that. And then they leave. Or they get angry at the real estate and then they start looking around and they're like, oh, our rent's actually cheaper than everywhere else.
That's right. Yeah. We've had heaps of those, especially if they've been in properties for like 3 to 4 years.
If you've been living in the same house for say 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
But you're paying next to nix.
Yeah.
The government is not helping in terms of they're attacking the investors because everyone that's going to try and buy a property still has to rent somewhere before they buy a property.
Yeah.
Right? But it is a wonderful, wonderful time to be a first homeowner.
Why do you say that?
We've now moved into a buyer's market. And in a buyer's market, there's less competition to buy properties.
Yep.
Right? So that has worked.
So explain that. What does that look like today? For like I know we kind of touched on it earlier.
Yeah, so you go to an auction, there's no one there to bid. Right? Or there's very few people. You'll go to more auctions today.
So that means you have more power to negotiate a better deal.
So in a seller's market, the seller dictates terms. They set the pricing.
Yeah.
There's more people bidding for the property than there are properties available.
Yeah.
And everyone wants one.
Yeah.
Also, the media is very positive.
Market.
But the media is very positive. Oh, buy a house. Oh, the market's going crazy. Get in. So everyone starts buying. In a seller's market, which is in a buyer's market, which is what we're in now, all the media is negative. Right, there's a lot of talk now about negative equity on properties. Oh, people who bought, now the houses are worth less. You know, that's a thing.
Yeah.
Right? You'll also get, negative sentiment is huge. But what happens is when you go into the market, there's less people vying for the properties. There's less people trying to buy them. So the buyer is able to set the terms.
Yeah.
And when you're a first-time buyer, that is a very, very, very good thing. If you're a first-time buyer, don't do auctions. And so now is a great time.
I think it's important for people to understand, like they can experience that now.
Yeah.
Is that what's happening right now in open homes?
Yeah, there's no one there, bro.
Yeah, wow.
There's no one there. Signs up, real estate agent's got the tie on.
Hey, welcome, guys.
Hey, guys, how you going? You walk in and you're like, mate,
where is everyone?
Where is everyone?
Late.
He's like, oh, sorry, we're late, mate.
We
just
had a group just leave.
We just had the other 30 buyers leave.
Or we had the buyers come through the week.
Yeah. Oh, mate, it's crazy. A lot of offers. Yeah. So what happens is because it's a buyer's market, there's less people around who are looking to buy.
Yeah.
The agents are very, very receptive to offers. Not only that, they're working hard to get the vendors to understand they should take the offer.
The reality of the market.
Take the offer. In a seller's market, the seller is always thinking, well, we got offered that much today. Let's say the property's for sale for $900.
Yeah.
Right? And then they get an offer of, say, $890. They'll be like, oh, we'll wait. We'll do a few open homes. We'll see what the rest of the market says. Yeah. Whereas this time, the agent's like, dude,
that
is the best you're going to get.
Take the offer.
Take the money. You know what I mean? And they're like, yeah, okay, then, and they'll take the offer.
Yeah, wow.
So the agent still is always working for the vendor, but they'll work hard to get the vendor to understand in this market, if you get an offer, you need to seriously consider buying them, taking the money. which brings all the power back to the buyer.
Yeah.
So as a first homeowner, you're coming into the market. There's less competition.
Yep.
Right. And there's wonderful incentives.
Talk to us about that.
Well,
Right now, what's available?
So the big one is the 5% government scheme.
Yep.
So you can buy a house, buy a property with a 5% deposit. So we'll talk New South Wales specifically.
Yep.
So you can buy with a 5% deposit properties under 800,000. You'll also pay no stamp duty.
Yeah.
So 5% deposit, no stamp duty. So let's say it's
So 800,000. What would that look like? What's the deposit size?
you need like 40 grand, 45 grand.
Wow,
You're in.
40
Done.
to 45 grand.
$800,000 property. And people will be like, "Oh, where can you buy an $800,000 property?" Well, bro, you got to buy where you can afford.
Yeah.
You don't buy where you like; you buy where you can afford, right? So, this is what's happening. The first homeowner can get into the market faster.
Yep.
If you buy a $600,000 property, you only need 30,000. Let's say 35. For your costs and incidentals.
Yeah.
You'll get change from that, but let's call it that. If you buy a $500,000, obviously at that end you're talking about units, existing units, older, cheaper units.
Yeah.
500,000, you get them for 25 grand plus costs.
Yep.
25, 26, 27 grand, and everyone can come up with 25 grand with a bit of focus. Right? Everyone can save $25,000, and if you haven't saved $25,000, that should be your only focus in life.
Yeah.
If you don't have enough money to buy a property, your number one focus from a finance perspective is accumulating a deposit.
Yeah, and do the opposite what the government's doing. Spend less.
Yeah, bro. Come on now. It's time to get serious, right? Especially, the majority of people that we're speaking to, they're at that stage where they want to get more serious about their own lives.
100%.
And that can happen in your 20s, 30s, 40s. For people, people get serious at different stages of their life. But the common ground is they're like, you know what? We've waited long enough. We've mucked around long enough. We've earned good money long enough. We now want to get serious about our finances.
Yeah.
That's a conversation that we have with first homeowners. They're like, Massey, we're ready. The other thing is get rid of all your debts. You don't need debt. You're on good money, right? You don't need to spend your money, all of your money, plus more money on the debt.
Yeah.
Right? You're not the Australian Labor government.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't do that, bro. Right? This ain't a joke. This is your life. Get to $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 saved. You'll have a better opinion of yourself.
Well, look, one of the biggest challenges that I see when I'm speaking to families that are in a position to buy property, let's say they have 40K, 50K,
40, 50, 60,
and
80.
you probably hear this from your experience, Massey.
But you tell me yours.
Well, the biggest thing is I want to buy $1 million property. I want to buy this property, but my borrowing capacity is, say, 800,000 or 700,000.
That's it. And that's not uncommon. But it's not uncommon with any product, right? But wisdom says it's probably smarter to stick within your budget.
Your means.
And buy what you can afford. And I think this is the hard part. This is the hard part for families. You're a first homeowner. Be prepared to be disappointed when you start looking at the properties you can afford, right? But what I want you to understand...
Do you see that more in the first purchase?
100%.
First purchase,
First purchase.
And why is that? Is it just because it's a new experience for them? They're getting into it?
Because it sounds like a lot of money. They're like, you mean I'm spending $800,000 and this is all I can get?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, true.
It's more money than they've ever spent in their life on anything they've ever purchased.
Yeah, that's right.
And they've been told it's not enough. So you need to flip the script and understand that it is enough. It's enough for you to buy exactly what you can afford now. And you have a choice to make. Do we keep renting for the rest of our lives? Or do we buy what we can afford now to get what we really want later? That's what we always say.
Yeah.
Most first homeowners, sub $1 million. Most first homeowners, sub 800,000.
Yeah.
Right? And when you start looking for properties you can afford in Sydney that are under $800,000, prepare to be underwhelmed. Prepare to be disappointed.
What can you get for 800,000 right now?
Not much.
Much.
What you want, what you can afford.
Yeah.
But what's the goal? Is the goal for you to be a renter for the rest of your life?
No.
You got to remember, if you make the decision to rent, it's not just on you. Because when the parents rent, the children rent, and the grandchildren rent.
Well, it gets even harder for the children.
It's generational.
If the parents don't own property, it's even harder for the kids to get into the property.
Yeah, you can't buy a property because your parents didn't own a property. And now you're going to gift that to your children and your grandchildren. Why would you want that? Make the call, bro. Make the sacrifice and be humble. Buy what you can afford. When I bought my first house, we bought in the hood, bro.
Yeah.
I bought my first house in Macquarie Fields. This was not long after the riots.
Macquarie
People were
riots?
like, you're going to live there?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. Mate, it's where we
Search
can
that up,
afford.
guys.
We were a single income household.
Yeah.
Me, my wife, and my 2 boys.
Yeah.
Right? Just be humble.
Yeah.
Buy what you can afford. We lived in a housing commission in order for us to save the deposit.
To get that
Right? For us to get that property. Like, be humble, bro. The problem is you're looking at Instagram, you're looking at that lifey life.
Real life, man.
You know, I'm talking
It's the
real
Instagram
life.
real
bro.
life.
I'm
Real,
talking
real,
life.
REEL.
But you got to understand that first property sets you up for every other property that you're ever going to own. But the challenge is when you've never owned property, you think one property is all there's ever going to be.
Yeah.
Wrong. Wrong. Humble yourself, buy the property you can afford. Just go get it, man. Right? Roll up your sleeves, husband and wife, pillow talk, say, babe, we can do this. We really want this.
100%.
And just sacrifice till you get it. But what's going to happen is the sacrifice you make to buy the house that you want, the house is going to appreciate, it's going to go up in value, and it will pave the way for you buying the house that you really want, the property you really want.
Yeah.
But if you never buy, your rent is going up forever. Forever and ever. Right? And now you look at rents. We're saying the median rent on a house is $850 in Sydney.
$1,000.
And it's coming up to $1,000, guys. Renting is not the smart decision. Owning changes lives for families. And so for all the first homeowners, what you've got to understand is the government has dropped a ton of money on the table. So that's a positive thing that this government has done.
Yeah.
They've made home ownership more accessible to more and more people in Australia, which is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Right? The hard part is they've made it harder for investors to own. So now rents are going to go up.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. That's a problem. That's a big problem. But as a first homeowner, now is the time to go, I want to get serious about my finances. Get rid of all your debt. Pay all your debt down. And how do you get rid of your debt? First rule, no new debt.
No more inquiries?
Stop
The inquiries?
No new debt, guys. No new debt means if you have a credit card, stop using it. Because every time you use it, that's new debt. So stop using.
Yeah.
So these days, people have afterpay, later pay, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We had one when I was growing up in New Zealand. It was called Never Pay.
Never pay?
Yeah, we used to use that one a lot.
See you later. See you later. Then into the call.
Never pay. So get rid of the debt. Pay off all your debts. It'll require you to go, you know what? We've been going a bit out of control here.
Yeah.
We probably can go without. We probably don't need to do all those things. And look, parents spend a lot of money on the kids, but the kids can go without.
Yeah.
Bro, I had to. They can.
Yeah.
We didn't have.
Yeah.
So, and there's nothing wrong with a whole family choosing to be humble in order to accomplish a worthwhile goal for the family. And home ownership for a family in Australia, worthwhile ambition. Like, do it, guys. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. So kill your debt. Start saving. Savings is not about how much. It's about frequency. It's about habit. You have to stack the W's. When you're trying to create new behavior, you have to stack the W's. And what does that mean? Rather than pushing yourself to the limit, which is $1,500 a week, just save a couple of hundred. And then it goes up. Oh, great. We did that 3-4 weeks in a row. Okay, now let's up it a little bit more. And
don't
do that
touch
gradually.
it. But you're saying don't touch it.
Yeah, but you don't need to touch it because you still got the other 1,200 that you didn't spend.
True. Yeah.
Success in finance is about longevity.
Yeah.
And it's about habit formation. Change your life. Get control of your finances and go buy assets. Right? Your family, your children, they will come along for the ride. You will love yourself for it. You will get confidence and you'll believe in yourself when you and your wife sit down and set goals. You'll be like, man, if we can do this, we can do anything.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what home ownership does. You're going to accomplish one of the most difficult things in the most expensive property market in Australia. In the world.
Yeah.
So now you know you can do hard things.
In the world.
In the world, yeah. Sydney's probably the second or third most unaffordable property market in the world. I think it's second to Hong Kong, right? So you're going to accomplish this hard, difficult thing. Great, right? It's going to take some sacrifice. Champions pay the price. Don't buy the media narrative that the reason you're renting is because of all of these other external factors.
That's right, yeah.
Let's be real for a second here.
Yeah.
The reason you're renting is because you waste your cash. You blow your money on things you don't need. And that's why you rent. You have not made home ownership a priority in your home, and that's why you rent. The federal government has put incentives in place for you to be able to go and buy a home sooner. They've just cleared the decks. All the other buyers, they're gone.
Yeah.
It's just you.
Yeah. So not only do we have the government incentives,
Not only have you got the government grants and the government incentives, they got rid of all the competition.
they got rid of the competition. So
and the prices are coming down.
and you can negotiate. Yeah, yeah.
And you can negotiate and you can get a better deal. All of these things. This is the first homeowner era because we're in a buyer's market. The prices are lower. You can go in. You can negotiate a good deal.
Yeah.
You don't need much money to buy your first
And
property.
this is not just in Sydney, right? We're seeing this all over
Australia-wide. Like, get serious about your life. Get serious because we don't know how long these things are going to be in place for.
Yeah, that's true.
But what I do know is there has never been a better time to be a first homeowner. You get to pick. You get to buy whatever you want. You need less money than you've needed for a long time. There's less competition than what we've seen. That's why now's a good time for first homeowners. For first homeowners, use every dollar that the government is willing to give you that you're entitled to. Get access to all of that money. Use that money to buy your first home. Use the first home as the impetus to fix the finances in your home.
Yeah.
If you suck with money, stop it.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Create some better habits. Change today. If you've already saved a deposit and you're a bit scared because you've seen the media and everyone's talking, don't do this and do this, don't listen to them. Don't listen to them. Now is a wonderful time to be a first homeowner and to go and buy your first property. You'll feel great. The property agent will be like, oh, mate, how you going? Nah, take your time.
Yeah.
You know, it's a wonderful, wonderful time to be a first homeowner. Huge grants, huge incentives, no competition, low prices. What more could you ask for?
Yeah.
The problem is sentiment is negative. You got to speak to people at work. You know what they're going to say? Oh, mate, I wouldn't buy something if I was you, mate.
Yeah.
Right? People are going to tell you it's a bad time to buy. That, you know what that in property, you know what that tells you? That means it's a good time to buy.
Now.
When everyone else is saying no, the ones who say yes, winner, chicken dinner. You will make bank and you'll get a great deal that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to get. So they're the plays. Investors, cheap properties, affordable, cash flow positive.
Mad.
First homeowners, get access to every dollar that you're entitled to.
Fix your finances.
Fix your finances.
Take action.
If you've already got the money, don't get scared. Fear is not how you build wealth.
Get the
Fear
right
is
team
how you
around
stay
you.
poor.
Get the right team around
Get
you.
the right crew around you. Take massive action. So you walk in and you're like, mate, I'm here to buy a property.
Yeah.
Right? You're the most important person in the room. Go be that guy. Fear keeps you poor. Action makes you wealthy. And when you become successful, they're going to hate you too.
They're coming for you.
They're coming for you. You're like, bro, are you kidding me? You know how hard I worked. You know how many jobs I worked. You know how much I saved. You know what my kids had to sacrifice and not have. You know I had to say no to my wife for 20 years. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to call you the bad guy. Why? Because you put in the work and you got the result. You become successful.
100.
And now you're the enemy. And that don't make sense.